What things are you looking for in this particular round of practices? What's going to be revealed to you that you don't already know about these guys?
Yeah, the thing you're going to get to do is that as we went through the process of the draft, the scouts always have the advantage of seeing these players live. So they know how, when they go on the road, they go watch practice or they run into the kids. So they know how these kids physically look. Zach and I and others, Aisha Morris and Nick Harris, everybody that's evaluating the players, this is now the first opportunity you get to see them, how they physically look. And so you're like, okay, yeah, long-armed guy. Like, we'll get to evaluate with Guyton and, with him, and like, okay, we on tape, he looks like a guy at 6'8". How is he proportioned with his body type, big lower body, upper body, and all that. So you kind of get an idea of that. The thing that I always got out of these camps, and I go back to the days too of, there was a time when I was at DallasCowboys.com and Jason Garrett had practices, and they would have practices where it was like legitimate practices, and like Dez Bryant's throwing up at practice, that kind of, and there was work. And nowadays with Mike McCarthy, it's a little bit of a different thing. It's more of I think they realize that these kids work to a point. They get to the draft and then they don't do anything once their pro days are over with. So you don't want to get out there and run a kid and all of a sudden have him pull a hamstring or have something happen to him where now you don't have him. It's going to be important after these camps, and then they're going to get to the OTAs, the mini camps, the mandatory stuff where they're working with the team. The veterans go home. These rookies get to stay. And then that's where they get in shape and get ready for July and training camp. So you got to get them to that point. But what I always got from these practices was body types, where coaches like to line them up, and then maybe some drills that you can get if the defensive backs, say, for example, the defensive backs are doing some drills. Kalen Carson, who I really liked from Wake Forest, the corner, I want to see him moving around a little bit in some drills. It might not be coverage drills and stuff, but at least I could see footwork. I could see maybe a little bit of quickness. I could see if he's a tight player, if he turns well enough. You could get those things from watching those drills. Justin Rogers, the defensive tackle, massive guy right there. I'm interested to see if you watch his tape, he moves around very well, 338 pounds. I just kind of want to see him go through some drills, chase the ball a little bit. Then is he going to be one of those guys that's just going to stand stationary? But the Auburn tape tells me he plays with some movement. So those are the kinds of things: body types, where you line up, and then maybe some type of a little bit of characteristics that I could draw some traits from how you're moving around in the drills.
Mike's kind of adjusted the practices to be significantly less intense than what JG's used to do. Yeah,
they used to legitimately bring in there were practices where they would bring in guys, these what they call tryouts. So they wouldn't even be guys that were signed. So now you have basically not a full roster, but enough to have a half line practices. And I just remember Dez Bryant, they were running him ragged. And he got sick, and I was like, gosh, dang. But that's
he got kicked out of school early in his final year, and there was just so much that was going on.
A lot going on.
He had the lunch with Dion.
Yeah, once these players get done with their pro days, like the first or second week of April, they're really not doing anything. So here we are into the middle of May, 4 weeks. Yeah, you're not going to take a kid and run him ragged out there and potentially get him hurt. Mike is one of those guys. It's like he is more about the cerebral aspect of the game when it comes to these rookies.
Yeah, letting the off-season body recover.
That's exactly.
I think that's something Mike does great.
That's what he's doing. But where you'll get something, where you'll really get something, is when they start to work with the veteran guys.
Yeah, that's when we've gone out there.
See, there's teams that will bring the veterans in with the rookies, and then there's some that will keep it separate. Where they'll just bring
I was going to ask you, is there any chance that Mozzie's out there and you can get an evaluation on him?
Not him working. No, not at all. Not at all.
Pretty cool to see these rookies out there, though.
It will be, but there'll be a lot of standing around, and maybe some individual drills that you can, and you can also find out where they line them up. Maybe you'll see with BB, is he playing? Is he playing? Do they have him playing guard? Do they have him playing center? How's he snapping? Is he making deep snaps? Yeah.
I always imagine this was just
shotgun snaps. Yeah.
Information overload for these rookies. Like you see the giant playbooks. It's like, man, I bet a lot of this is mentally wearing on some of these guys.
Who's the rookie with the best chance of having an impact year one? And how many do you think will have an impact year one?
Well, of course, it's very obvious that you would say that Guyton could be your starter at left tackle, and BB and BB
both those offensive linemen.
I personally feel like that the guy that might have the least of the learning curve might be BB.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think with Guyton, as much as I like Guyton and all that, playing left tackle and stuff, that's going to be an adjustment for him. But the thing about BB and the way he plays, the physicality, the thing he's going to have to work on the most is that being able to step and snap. That's something he's hasn't done in a while. I mean, it's a little bit different when you're snapping, making sure the snaps are, and then you're coming off the ball and going that way. But I mentioned Carson, the cornerback. I'm kind of thinking like if he's one of those guys that all of a sudden we get to mini camps and he's showing out, and then training camp he's showing out. I wonder what that's going to do with Jordan Lewis's job, because maybe then you think about playing Carson on the outside and kicking Black inside in the nickel. So that could be your impact. I mentioned Justin Rogers, Marshawn Nealon, the defensive end. How much of impact is he going to have? If Sam Williams doesn't do well at right end, is that going to be Nealon's job? We'll see.
It'd be awesome if he can ball out and get significant snaps. Yeah. That would be great for his future and for this defensive line. They need an infusion of young playmakers, and what he does stopping the run. I mean, you do that at a great level.
That's exactly what he does.
You could find the field a lot for this Cowboys team as they try to stop the bleeding in some of these situations.